The crazy story of Peter Mwaura Mugure, KDF soldier, who killed wife and kids after court forced him to pay child support. On 26 October 2019, Joyce Siombua prepared her excited kids for a trip to Nanyuki to meet their dad. In her mind, this was the perfect plan for her daughter's 11th birthday, totally oblivious to the tragedy that awaited them. Since, unlike her, who was excited about the trip, her lover Peter Mwaura was clouded with angst and bitterness, and the only thing he had in wait for them was murder. How did they get here? Well, here's the story. Peter Mwaura was born in 1985 as the sixth child to Hannah Mugure and her late husband Mugure, who lived in Kayole slums of Nairobi. Like his sisters recall, Peter was a quiet kid who preferred immersing himself in books for entertainment, such that when he joined Mwangaza Primary School for his early education, no subject would stop him from joining the best secondary school in Nairobi at the time, the Upper Hill High School. Here, his persona as a bookworm intensified as he burnt the midnight oil in pursuit of getting a grade that would fulfill his dream of becoming an engineer. Gladly, he scored an AA in KCSE, a grade that guaranteed him a spot at the prestigious University of Nairobi, where he pursued a degree in civil engineering until he graduated with second-class honors. Quite commendable, if you ask me. However, as it is with Kenya, getting a degree is easy. The problem lies within getting a job, a situation that befell Paul Mugure after graduation, as he tarmacked like most of us looking for a job. Sadly, no job was forthcoming, but gladly, as he waited at home for a job, he came across a beautiful young girl who was still in school at St. Bernard Secondary School. She also lived in Kayole, and her name was Joyce Siombua. Smitten by her mango skin color, Peter quickly used his comrade skills on the young lass who was in Form 4. And by the time she sat her KCSE in 2009, Peter had already started exploring her Garden of Eden in his single house in Kayole. This exploration left Joyce Siombua pregnant immediately after school, and it is then that she moved in with Peter in his small house after a brief introduction to Peter's mom, who was not happy per se. However, they still went on because love wins. As Joyce's baby bump grew, Peter knew he had to get a job fast to support his family. But since none was forthcoming, he decided to try his luck in the Kenyan army, since his academic papers qualified him already. Gladly, he was shortlisted after rigorous recruitment, and voila, Mans joined the army for training, leaving behind Joyce Siombua. This departure presented a perfect chance for the mom to really show how she felt about Joyce, and it is then that she sent Peter's sisters to his rented house to pick up his belongings, forcing Joyce Siombua to go back to her mother's house while 8 months pregnant, their first breakup. Meanwhile, Peter underwent training successfully and became a soldier with a tax-free salary, whereas Joyce delivered a daughter, Shanice Mawa, on 1 September 2009. You might think he would start supporting Joyce, but that was not the case. He got intimate with a female officer in the Air Force and completely forgot about Joyce, who was struggling to raise their daughter since she worked at a local bakery. It was painful, but Joyce moved on, raising her kids solely up until Peter showed up 5 years later in 2014, trying to woo her back to his arms. Joyce was resistant, but after thinking about her kid, she caved in because, unlike her, Peter was financially stable, being a major. This 2014 reunion brought about some fire moments in their relationship, and the love they shared blossomed into another pregnancy, which ultimately changed their life. This was the birth of their son, Prince Michael, who Peter Mwaura vehemently denied being responsible for, citing that she could have been paged by someone else since they had not been together for long. However, this was not the case, because Joyce also vehemently denied the allegations and called out Peter for being such a turncoat. This discussion turned violent, and Mugure decided to leave her rented house in Kayole, warning her to never try and put that responsibility on him. But this being the second betrayal, Joyce could not stomach his bullshit again. She had to do something, and since she couldn't touch the KDF officer attached at Moi Air Base Nairobi, she resorted to using legal means, a means that would haunt Peter so bad that one day, as he was flying a military airplane as a trainee pilot, he crashed down, forcing his bosses to ground him forever. This was because his mind was not right, having been taken to court for child support, whereby the court ordered that Kenyan shillings 75,000 of his salary to be paid monthly to Joyce for the kids after DNA proof. To him, This was quite a high amount to pay for a lady who was now seeing other men after he left her. Something that ate his mind up. So after paying 3 months upkeep, Kenyan shillings 225,000, Peter was fed up. At work, he started behaving strangely, like standing in the rain for hours deep in thought. And it was during these low moments that he hatched the most heinous plan a father would ever do, to murder his family. So on 25th October 2019, he called Joyce asking her to bring the kids so that he could bond with them and stop being a stranger. Joyce obliged and asked for fare, which he sent fast. So the next day, Joyce woke up very early and prepared the kids for the trip to Nanyuki. She was excited about the trip, and she shared about it with her mom, who asked her to be cautious. However, she ignored her mom's concern, since the journey to Nanyuki was uneventful, and nothing was out of usual for her as she talked with Peter on phone, who sounded very excited to meet the kids. On arrival, Peter picked them up in his Subaru Impreza from town and drove them to Laikipia Air Base, where Siambua left her ID at the gate, as is required with civilians who visit the military base. They then headed to Peter's single house, where the mood was okay at first, but after the kids dozed off, it went south after Peter requested that the two shower together, and Joyce refused. In response, he remained awkwardly silent as Joyce texted her best friend to inform her of what was going on. And just like the Kamba ancestors would ask, her friend asked Joyce if they were going to have sex, whereby Joyce said no since they shared a bed with the kids. Her friend warned her to sleep with an eye open, which she did up to morning as they slept together in the same bed, looking at each other like brother and sister, as she described in her morning text to Farizana. Not knowing that her denial to sex was the last nail on the coffin for Peter, who in the middle of the night as they slept called a taxi driver to deliver to him sleeping pills and bags. However, the driver refused after he was told that after delivery, he'd carry something out, forcing Peter to withhold his plan of killing his family while they slept. He wanted to drug them first, but it was untenable after the driver refused, so he had to wait till morning. So, in the morning, Peter asked Joyce to prepare for the Chaka date, and as soon as she went into the shower, he took the kids out of the house to an unknown destination. When Joyce reached out to him, he told her that he was showing them around the base, which was quite big since it also had an airport. Quite convincing per standard. But as soon as he came back without the kids, Joyce was shocked. It was weird, but Peter said he had left them in the company of his friend so that they can talk alone away from the full glare of the kids. That did not sit well with Joyce. And when she tried to question him more about the kids' whereabouts, Peter shed his calm persona and hit her with a blunt object on the head. Pa! There and then, Joyce passed on. Peter then went to the gate, picked Joyce's ID card, and left the base to where he had hid the kids. He remained with them until evening, when he drove back home after buying some sleeping pills which he needed to end their lives. On the way, he drugged the two babies such that by the time they were arriving, they had fallen asleep, making his job easier. He opened the house and strangled them with a rope. There and then, the two babies followed their mom to heaven, leaving Peter with the problem of dumping the bodies, which he solved after calling Collins Pamba, a casual laborer, to help him get rid of the bodies, and in return he'd help him get recruited in the army. The two carefully moved the bodies out of the house and dumped them at Thingithu Nanyuki, in a shallow grave dug by Peter. And later, Peter drove to Nanyuki town and placed Joyce's phone in a matatu destined for Nairobi, hoping to get away with murder. However, this was his biggest undoing, since it was what gave him away to the cop.